President Trump is angry with Europe. He says Europe treats the US unfairly in trade. He's especially mad about European taxes on American cars. So, he's putting new taxes called tariffs on cars coming from Europe. This has made Europe very angry. These new tariffs are a big deal. They could change how the US and Europe trade with each other. This trade is worth a lot of money. Both sides could lose a lot if they cannot agree. This fight is about more than just cars. It's about who has the power in the world today. Tariffs are like taxes on things countries buy from each other. When the US puts a tariff on European cars, it makes those cars more expensive in the US. Trump thinks this will make Americans buy more American cars. He also wants to punish Europe for what he sees as unfair trade practices. Trump has used tariffs before. He put tariffs on things from China. This started a trade war with China. Now Trump is doing something similar with Europe. He believes these tariffs will protect American jobs and businesses. Europe doesn't like Trump's tariffs. They say they are unfair and break the rules of international trade. Europe is not backing down. They are planning their own tariffs on American goods. This could hurt American businesses that sell things to Europe. Many European countries are angry, but 3 countries are leading the fight back against Trump: Germany, France, and Denmark. They are important countries in Europe and have a lot of trade with the US. They want to show Trump that they are serious about protecting their interests. Germany is the biggest economy in Europe and a powerhouse in the car industry. German car companies like BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and Volkswagen sell a lot of cars in the US. Trump's tariffs could hurt them badly. Germany is worried about its car industry. Many jobs in Germany depend on making and selling cars. If Germans buy fewer cars because of Trump's tariffs, people could lose their jobs in Germany. This is why Germany is fighting back against Trump's tariffs. France and Denmark are also, pretty angry with Trump's tariffs. France makes wine, cheese, and luxury goods that it sells to the United States. Denmark sells food and pharmaceuticals. They're worried that Trump will put tariffs on their products too. France and Denmark are standing with Germany against Trump. They believe in free trade and think Trump's tariffs are wrong. They're willing to fight back, even if it hurts their own economies in the short term. They believe that standing united is important for the future of Europe. The US car industry is, huge. It's not just a symbol of American innovation and manufacturing might, it's a massive economic engine that touches nearly every part of the country. From the assembly lines in Detroit to the sprawling dealership lots in Texas and California, the auto industry is woven into the fabric of American life. It's a source of pride, a provider of good jobs, and a driver of technological progress. The numbers are staggering. The industry is worth about $1.53 trillion, making it one of the largest sectors in the US economy. Millions of Americans depend on it for their livelihoods. Not just the workers who build the cars, but also those who design, market, sell, and service them. Think about the ripple effect. Every car that rolls off the line supports jobs in steel, electronics, software, logistics, and even advertising. The health of the car industry is closely tied to the health of the entire US economy, but right now, this giant is facing a serious threat. The ongoing trade war between the United States and Europe has put the future of the industry at risk. Tensions are running high, and there's a real possibility that things could get worse before they get better. For workers and business owners alike, there's a growing sense of uncertainty. What will happen if the conflict escalates? How will it affect jobs, profits, and the ability of American companies to compete on the world stage? One of the biggest concerns is the threat of new tariffs. If Europe decides to slap tariffs on American cars, it could have a huge impact. Those cars would instantly become more expensive for European buyers, making them less attractive compared to local or Asian brands. European consumers who are already price-sensitive might simply choose to buy fewer American cars. That means fewer sales, less revenue, and a shrinking market for US automakers who have spent decades building their brands overseas. The consequences could be severe. If American car companies can't sell as many vehicles abroad, they may be forced to cut costs at home. That could lead to layoffs, plant closures, and a wave of job losses that would ripple through communities across the country. It's not just the big automakers who would feel the pain. Suppliers, dealerships, and even local businesses that rely on auto industry workers could all be affected. For many families, the stakes couldn't be higher. Some people argue that President Trump's tariffs are actually a good thing for the US car industry. By making imported European cars more expensive, the idea is that American-made vehicles will become more competitive here at home. Supporters say this could boost sales for US automakers, protect American jobs, and even encourage foreign companies to build more cars in the United States. It's a bold strategy, and it sparked a fierce debate among politicians, business leaders, and workers alike. But not everyone is convinced. Critics warn that these tariffs could backfire, making it harder for American companies to sell their cars overseas. They point out that the US car industry relies heavily on exports, and that shutting off access to foreign markets could do more harm than good. Industry experts worry that retaliatory tariffs from Europe could trigger a downward spiral, hurting both sides and making cars more expensive for everyone. The uncertainty is making it difficult for companies to plan for the future, invest in new technology, or hire more workers. So, where does that leave us? Honestly, it's still unclear what the overall effect will be. The stakes are enormous, and the outcome could shape the future of the US car industry for years to come. As the debate rages on, one thing is certain. The decisions made in Washington and Brussels will have real consequences for millions of American workers, businesses, and families. The world is watching, and the next moves could determine whether this $1.53 trillion giant continues to thrive or faces a long, uncertain road ahead. The trade war isn't the only problem between the US and Europe. Trump also wants to buy Greenland from Denmark. Greenland, as you might know, is a large island near the Arctic, and it's got a lot of natural resources like oil and gas. But Denmark has said it's not for sale. Trump's interest in Greenland has made Denmark and other European countries, well, pretty suspicious. They think Trump wants to control Greenland's resources and maybe even use the island for military purposes. This disagreement has, just added more tension between the US and Europe. Trade wars, honestly, can hurt everyone. They're not just about politicians arguing or countries trying to outdo each other. The effects ripple out, touching the lives of ordinary people in ways that are often unexpected and far-reaching. When governments decide to impose tariffs or other trade barriers, it might seem like a way to protect local industries, but the reality is much more complicated. When countries put tariffs on each other's goods, it just makes those goods more expensive. Tariffs are essentially taxes on imports, and companies that import these goods often have no choice but to pass those extra costs on to consumers. This means that everyday items like electronics, clothing, or even groceries can suddenly cost a lot more than they used to. This can really hurt consumers, who end up paying more for things they need. For families already struggling to make ends meet, even a small increase in prices can mean tough choices, like cutting back on essentials or skipping out on things they enjoy. It's not just about luxury items, it's about the basics that people rely on every day. It can also hurt companies that sell those goods, because people might buy less. When sales drop, businesses, especially small ones, struggle to stay afloat. They might have to cut back on staff, reduce hours, or even close their doors for good. This creates a ripple effect, impacting not just the business owners, but also their employees and the communities that depend on them. In a trade war, some people actually lose their jobs. Factories may slow down production or shut down entirely if they can't sell their products abroad, or if the cost of materials becomes too high. Workers who lose their jobs may find it hard to get new ones, especially in towns where one industry dominates the local economy. Companies might have to close factories or move them to other countries, which can really hurt families and entire communities. When a major employer leaves, it's not just the workers who suffer. Local shops, restaurants, and service providers all feel the pinch. Schools may lose funding, and neighborhoods can become less vibrant as people move away in search of work. On top of that, trade wars can hurt the global economy. When big economies slow down, it affects countries all over the world. Stock markets can become volatile, investments dry up, and international companies may delay or cancel expansion plans. The uncertainty makes it harder for everyone to plan for the future, from business leaders to everyday workers. When countries trade less with each other, it can slow down economic growth. Fewer goods are shipped, fewer services are exchanged, and opportunities for new jobs and innovation shrink. In the end, trade wars rarely have clear winners. Instead, they create challenges for workers, consumers, and businesses everywhere, reminding us just how interconnected our world really is. Right now, the future feels more uncertain than ever. The world is holding its breath, waiting to see what the next move will be. Will the US and Europe find common ground, or are we on the brink of something much more serious? The stakes are high, and the path forward is anything but clear. Every decision made in the coming days could have ripple effects across the globe, impacting not just governments and corporations, but everyday people too. There's still a chance that the US and Europe could come together and negotiate a deal that works for both sides. Diplomats are working around the clock, holding meetings behind closed doors, searching for a compromise that could ease tensions and restore stability. If they succeed, it could mark a turning point showing the world that even in times of disagreement, dialogue and diplomacy can prevail. But the reality is, things could just as easily go the other way. If talks break down, the disagreements could escalate quickly. We could see more heated arguments, public protests, and a hardening of positions on both sides. The longer the standoff lasts, the more difficult it becomes to find a peaceful resolution. If neither side is willing to back down, the situation could spiral into a full-blown trade war. That would mean new tariffs, stricter regulations, and a sharp decline in cross-border trade. Cargo ships could be left waiting in harbors, goods might pile up at customs checkpoints, and businesses on both sides of the Atlantic would feel the squeeze. The consequences of a trade war would be severe. Factories could close, workers might lose their jobs, and consumers could see prices rise on everyday goods. Small businesses, in particular, would struggle to survive in an environment of uncertainty and rising costs. The economic pain wouldn't be limited to the US and Europe, it would ripple out to affect suppliers, partners, and customers around the world. That's why the world is watching so closely. News outlets are covering every development, analysts are weighing in with predictions, and people everywhere are trying to make sense of what it all means. The uncertainty is unsettling, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Despite the tension, there's still hope. Many believe that the US and Europe, with their long history of partnership, can find a way to work together. Business leaders, community groups, and ordinary citizens are calling for cooler heads to prevail, urging leaders to put aside their differences and focus on what unites them. Free trade and international cooperation have brought decades of peace and prosperity to both sides of the Atlantic. When countries work together, economies grow, innovation flourishes, and people have more opportunities. That's why so many are hoping for a resolution that preserves these hard-won gains. In the end, the real question is whether the US and Europe can overcome their differences and avoid a damaging trade war. The clock is ticking, and the world is waiting. Will leaders choose confrontation or cooperation? Only time will tell, but the decisions made now will shape the future for years to come.